3, 2, 1, and we are back. It is Sunday. What is the day? I don't even know what day it is. The 7th.
Yes.
Oh, it's my mom's birthday. Of course I know what day it is.
You do.
So happy birthday, Mom. My mom turns 80 today, and she lives with us here in Puerto Rico. It's sometimes I think we're living with her, but nonetheless.
She had me take a picture of her driving the golf cart this morning because she said her relatives wouldn't believe it. I think she's probably right.
Well, you know, that golf cart of hers we got for her has turned on her a few times.
It has. I always have rescue missions at the ready.
Yeah, when Mom rolls around in her golf cart, Julie's always basically got her cell phone literally on her hip in case Mom gets stuck someplace. The first time she went out by herself, she literally drove it up a tree.
It took about 10 minutes. She's not so good with reverse.
No, well, she got to figure it out.
Yeah,
hey, let's see what kind of golf cart, NASCAR driving you're doing. You're 80, lady.
Well, that's true.
Exactly.
I have to be half as competent.
Bag on my mom on her birthday. How dare funny. You? Anyway, so listen, this is our informal Sunday debrief show where Julie and I have no particular agendas. We talk about whatever's on our minds. And we relax, and hopefully you guys are feeling the same way. Julie and I intentionally stay away from our offices, stay away from anything that smells like, work, because you have to step out of the, kitchen occasionally to catch your breath. And certainly in this day and age with everything that's going on, and I'm not going to bring all the current, plight that's affecting our country. I'm not going to bring that into today's show, but look, guys, if there's ever been a time for you to forcibly debrief yourself or unplug, it's now.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody said if you could give the year 2020 a candy flavor, what would it be? And that was a pretty funny discussion back and forth. But people eventually settled on, remember in Harry Potter, Bertie Bott's every flavor beans?
Oh, yeah.
So you never quite know what you're going to get. Some of the beans are earwax flavor and some of them are cherry. But the discussion eventually settled on, yes, it would be every flavor bean, except most of them would be something like coal or earwax.
We actually got Zoe a bag of that candy, and so what was it, Jelly Belly or somebody?
Yeah, I think it's Jelly Belly. They're jelly beans.
They actually created, this
Bertie Bott's,
jelly beans, and you can get them in a package, the whole thing. And Zoe quickly learned which ones taste good and which ones taste bad. And let me tell you, the ones that taste bad, I cannot imagine the mad scientist that sat around in a lab someplace and said, no, Bob, come here, try this one. Try this one. Bob, you didn't heave. We're going to hear.
It's not bad enough.
Let me throw in some more, whatever this was, that makes it taste really and smell just horrible. That stuff's the real deal.
It is.
I guess if they can make stuff taste really good, they can make stuff taste really bad.
They know how to do both, apparently, but gross.
Witchcraft and alchemy.
Yes.
Well, so, Julie, what's on your mind?
Well, you sent me an interesting article this morning on the topic of anything goes in 2020. And it reminded me of a movie that we saw that we both liked called Contact. And it was based on these, what are they called? Consistent pulses.
Can we tell a Jody Foster story when you're done?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's kind of what it reminded me of. But they have detected with all of the fancy detection stuff, especially out of Australia, these consistent, it's not radio waves, but they're electronic,
they're pulses.
They're pulses, but they're consistent, and they are.
Nobody
knows exactly what's creating them. They used to think that they were created from black holes,
right?
But because there's 4 different specific locations, and they're on the edges of different galaxies, that would show that they're not actually from black holes.
You have something written on your hand.
It just reminded me of something. Don't worry about it.
You write in your hand at your age?
Yes, when I can't find paper.
Oh, okay. What did you write down?
I was reminding myself about Bertie Bott's.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding.
Let me see your hand. Oh my gosh, listener, she really does have Bertie Bott's written down on her hand.
I don't want to forget about it.
That's how much she wanted to share that story with you. It's written on the palm of her left hand. Yeah. Wow, you are dedicated, woman.
Be nicer, I will put a blue ink tattoo on your arm.
That's right. Well, so
anyway, so there's these 4 different locations of unidentified, but very consistent. It's every 16 days for about an hour at a time. These pulses are able to be identified. Well, that's exactly what they were tracking in the movie Contact with Jody Foster, which is probably, a 20-year-old movie by now, maybe 15 years.
No, it's probably more like
maybe more,
25, yeah.
Yeah, but it was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen that movie, it's really beautiful. But the gist of the movie is that there were these pulses, that radio waves that were and intertwined into the radio waves was code, and they decoded it, and they then built this machine, and the machine then took her to this planet. And only she actually knew that she'd left, because everyone else was observing the machine on the Earth, was not believing that it actually did anything, because nothing actually, there wasn't any actual movement. They didn't get the concept of being able to,
essentially teleport or
right.
time travel.
Exactly. So here's the moral of the story, which is kind of crazy. And I know some of you guys listening for the first time are going, holy crap, these people are wackadoodle. What does this have to do with real estate? Absolutely nothing.
That's the point.
That's the point of Sunday.
Study stuff that's out of your wheelhouse,
right,
so that you can have a more clear mind with your wheelhouse.
That's exactly right. And then you can be a constant learner, because then it makes it, when you go back into your wheelhouse, then you're a little bit frostier than you otherwise would have been. So the moral of the story here is, and this is all the crazy stuff that with regards to alien and interstellar travel that's happened so far this year. We reported 2 articles on our website. I just sometimes have our writers throw stuff up just to see if you guys are paying attention. But the articles about the Navy actually releasing official footage of F-18 fighter pilots seeing, identifying, filming, and discussing unidentified flying objects. That's real, and it's as real can possibly be. So if you guys haven't seen that, you can Google for the information, or just go to our website, timandjulieharris.com. So in a year of, what are they called again? A world where the jelly bean of choice is the
Birdie Bot's every flavor beans.
That's right. So having a actual potential contact with aliens, why not? I mean, seriously, pile it on.
I do think that
let's get it done.
I have this suspicion that they've known about this for a long time and are just sneaking little bits of information out while we're all distracted by all of the other wackadoodle stuff that's
It does
happening.
seem like that, doesn't it?
Because in a normal scenario, wouldn't everybody be freaking out about this? I think they would. Or at least there'd be a ton of interest, and it's not even really making the major news channels.
How long ago was it that the Pope came out and basically essentially said in one of his official speeches that, essentially he was saying there's a very real possibility that,
It was kind of like, I'm not saying that they're not out there.
Right.
He was saying because we can't prove they're not, then maybe there's something there.
Kind of a far-fetched thing for a pope to say, unless he had some sort of internal memo. All I'm saying.
You never know.
Well, so here's a Jody Foster story. So Jody Foster, she's not really a very famous actor now, but any of you guys who are, say, 55 or younger certainly know who she is. Great actress, and she
Silence of the Lambs was her.
Silence, the original ones, not the ones that came after with Julianne Moore.
Sure.
Right. Well, albeit those were good too, but the original one is with Claire. That was awesome. So she vacationed at a place a week before Julie and I vacationed at the same place called Post Ranch. And if those of you guys who are in Central California, really Post Ranch is probably one of the most beautiful, magical, ridiculously overpriced places we've ever been.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it's totally worth it.
I was skeptical, but I'm a huge fan now.
We stayed there for our anniversary. I don't remember which anniversary it was. And this is when we were more West Coast oriented. And so we drove up the coast from Southern California, and it was just absolutely idyllic. You guys in that part of the world are very spoiled. So we stayed at Post Ranch, and one of the nice things about Post Ranch is that it's very small. There's these beautiful, I don't know what you want to call them, villas or houses that hang over a cliff. And it's this cliff that when you're looking out these back windows, it's impossible to describe what you, again, guys in California, you know what I'm talking about, how the ocean just seems to go forever and ever and ever. It's just the most beautiful, crazy thing you've ever seen.
Stunning.
It is stunning. It's shocking. And the other thing is being where it's located in California, it's not very warm. It's often chilly.
I know. And
we'll get back to Jody Foster's story in a second. You guys will like it. So Julie and I, when we were up there, we were going on a walk through this beautiful, beautiful, redwood forest, pine trees everywhere, and off in the distance. Now, someone had warned us that there's wild turkeys that are in this forest. And, whatever, Julie and I are going on our walk, and way off in the distance we heard, and Julie nearly peed herself because she didn't know what a wild turkey was.
It wasn't just one of them either.
No, and they got closer to us. Okay.
It's like a flock of them.
And up out of nowhere, a herd. And these things were freaking monsters.
Yeah.
These were clearly something that has no natural predator.
They're they look to scale with the redwoods.
I bet you the tallest one, in all truth, he was probably 3.5, 4 feet tall.
At least, yeah.
He was a monster.
Bigger than Zoe.
And they were not afraid of us. They come out of the woods
They
just
chase
like
you.
it's just like some sort of weird, prehistoric beast, and then they start walking on the path towards us. All these huge freaking turkeys. Well, finally we got close to them, and they kind of went their way, and we went ours. But anyway, that was ridiculous. Okay, you know what? We're going to tell them the other story, okay?
What? Are you thinking the iguana
Trust
story?
me, guys, the Jody Foster story is worth it. We're going to tell you one more. All right, so Julie and I went to Post Ranch for a nice romantic, getaway. We wanted to chill. We wanted to, just, relax, have a nice romantic getaway. So this mother, it was Mother's Day weekend. So this mother and her two daughters rent the whatever next to us, villa house, whatever it is, tree house. I don't remember what they called it. So they rented the one next to us, and they obviously came there to celebrate Mother's Day, but they were a little bit louder than we would like.
Super loud.
And they were drinking, and they were having a good old time, playing music really too loud, and just being really inconsiderate. Especially considering them, Julie and I wanted to just chill. So at the very end of this property, there's this, we called it the cauldron. There's this massive stainless steel hot tub, which is beautiful, but it is in the sun all day. And did I mention it's stainless steel? So not only is the water hot, but basically the tub itself, even when it's cold and foggy outside.
It's beyond hot tub.
Yeah, you're basically getting in there if you want to, become human stew.
It reminds me, remember the Seinfeld episode where Kramer had a hot tub and he buttered himself?
Yeah, exactly.
Awful.
Well,
Anyway,
so Julie and
like
Julie, there's these beautiful chairs that are sitting around. You guys should go online and just look at the pictures of Post Ranch. You'll see what I'm talking about.
In fact, their lead picture, I believe it's still the cauldron.
So we go down, then there's these chairs around the cauldron, and there's the view, and the whole thing's beautiful. And we'd been there for like 2 or 3 days, and we were chilling, and then these loud ladies showed up. So we go down to the cauldron, and they're there, drinking it up, boozing it up, making all this noise. And Julie and I are like, these ladies will just not leave us alone. So we walked down the hill, like there was this little path, a little secret path that was behind the cauldron, and we walked down until we were in these trees. And then Julie and I downloaded, this really happened, we downloaded an app of, on our iPhones of animal noises, tigers, lions, bears, and the best one was Bigfoot. Yeah. The best one was Bigfoot. Okay, so then we listened to the noises quietly just to figure out which one was scariest, and it was definitely Bigfoot.
Definitely.
All right, so then we could hear them from down the hill making all this ruckus, and we just wanted them to chill a little bit, just be quiet. I'm not, whatever. We're being respectful, but they're not. So then Julie and I crank up the noise on our iPhones.
Bigfoot.
And then we start playing Bigfoot, and you should have heard you heard nothing. Those ladies just shut up instantaneously.
It was awesome.
True story. So then we come back up the little hill to the cauldron, and they're clearing out. Of course, they didn't say anything to us about hearing noises.
Hilarious.
So they clear out. Are you going to find it?
No, I'm reminding myself to re-download that because that's going to be great to mess with Zoe.
Definitely. All right, so then they go back to their house, cabin, lodge, whatever it is, and we're staying next door, and whoop, the party starts again. Lots of horrible noise. But sure enough, guess what happens? Bigfoot may have followed them home. Because then Julie and I cranked up the volume on our iPhones again and started playing Bigfoot noises again, and they didn't make a peep the rest of the night. True story.
It is a true story. And so, note to self: let's make this practical and applicable. How else can you use that app? They're very authentic sound. I mean, I don't know for sure about Bigfoot, but it's a really good unidentifiable, something's out there kind of sound.
You should try to find it on your iPhone.
I'm definitely going to find it.
You should try to find it now.
I think
I'll tell the Jody Foster story.
I'll look for it. Hopefully it's still around.
But if just Google Bigfoot yell, you'll find it. You don't need to find it on the App Store, sweetie. Just go Bigfoot yell and you'll find it. You just search for it. All right, so here's the Jody Foster story. So the cauldron's on one end of this property, and on the other end of this property is this nice restaurant. I could tell you guys a Russell Brand story too after this. I'll tell you that one too. Mm-hmm. Is Brand, right? Russell Brand, big, tall, goofy-looking guy. Yeah, actor, whatever he is. Okay. All right, so we're at this restaurant, and there's this huge deck that's out, and it's pitch black there at night. There's obviously no city lights, nothing. And there's this astronomer shows up, I think, 2 or 3 nights of the week, and he has this beautiful, gorgeous telescope, and he's, an astronomer, so obviously he knows what he's doing. And so we're out there. Now, this joke is highly nerdy, and you guys might not, I'll have to explain it probably, but hopefully you'll get the gist of it. So in the movie Contact, where she was going when she was teleported was, do you remember, Julie?
Vega.
No, Sirius. Sirius.
Was it Sirius?
It was
I think
Sirius.
it was Sirius.
Yeah, so she was going to Sirius, which was a, basically it's, Sirius is on the, I'm trying to remember, it's on the west, north, I forget which sky it shows up in, but it's almost, it shows up about halfway into the night, and it is super bright, and it's sort of pulsates, okay, and it's beautiful. So if you guys know what I'm talking about, most of you do, hopefully. If not, look for it tonight. So Sirius, we are looking out into the ocean from California, and the thing was practically behind us, right? So I guess it would be in the eastern sky. And so the astronomer was sitting there telling us, because this place is a hotbed for celebrities to show up, because it's just, it's maybe 2 hours, 3 hours north of LA, I think. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of show up, and the hotel's policy is to not acknowledge them, not, ask for autographs or whatever. And so this place is crawling usually with, different types of people that are famous. By the way, we didn't know any of that when we went there. We just thought it looked cool in the pictures, and we wanted a place to go for our anniversary. That's a true story. So we're up there, and we're looking through this telescope with this astronomer. There's other people around. It was really nice. And then the astronomer says Jody Foster was just up there, and everyone had, Contact the movie was still fresh in everyone's mind. And, he asked us if we'd seen it. Of course, we said yes. And then he asked if we'd, if we remember anything about it. Yes, they're trying to get to Sirius. Could you Google to make sure I'm right? Or did you find the Bigfoot noise?
It's going slowly. But yes, you actually can. You can order something called Emergency Bigfoot. You can have howl, snort, roar, or groan. Bigfoot sounds when you need them. So it only costs $10.
No, that's too much, man.
No, it's not an app. It's an actual little handheld device.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, that's.
I think you can get it on Amazon.
If next time, let's do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, so we're out there looking at in the telescope, and then the astronomer. Remember, she was the star of this movie called Contact. She was trying to get to Sirius. You would think during the making of that movie she'd at least know where the star was in the sky. She did not. So the astronomer sits and tells us that she was just there, and he had to show her where this, planet was that supposedly she went in this movie. I thought that was funny.
Yes.
I mean, so he had to spin the thing around and show it to you. Okay, so that's kind of the joke, but that's our Jody Foster story. We could also tell them the Leonardo DiCaprio story. Should we save that?
From the same location.
Yeah. Maybe we should save that one, though.
We can save that one.
Yeah, if you guys remind us, we'll tell you about Leo. Oh, and I'll tell you another story that we've never told you guys before. True story. Julie and I actually met James Bond at LAX.
I thought we did that one.
Not here. In the Virgin Private Lounge.
Yeah,
and practically
awesome.
Had martinis with James Bond. That happened. Right. But that might be for a different podcast. You guys have to earn that story.
That's a longer story.
Yeah, you have to earn that one.
But that was awesome.
You should see Julie's turning red right now. She's just thinking about the time she met Daniel Craig. She's beside herself.
Hey, you don't understand.
All right. So was it this time or a different time we were at Post Ranch where we ran Russell Brand? Was it a different time? I don't remember if it's the same trip.
We need to go back there.
Tell me about it, sister.
That's what our trip should be when we're allowed out.
Yeah, don't put that ink on the chair. Yeah. All right. So we are actually, now I'm thinking about it, we are actually on that same deck looking at stars, maybe the same trip, maybe a different trip, we don't remember. And we knew we'd saw Russell Brand when we got there. We didn't think anything of it. I mean, this is back when he was just broken up with, what was her name? Katy Perry, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he'd just broken up, and he was like, everyone, it was Team Katy or Team Russell and all this garbage from the 90s. Some of you, again, might remember, maybe early 2000. I'm really not into pop culture. So we're up there and looking through the telescope, and, Julie and I are sitting on this bench. It's pitch black. I cannot see, I can only see up to about my wine glass. That's about it. I couldn't see Julie, and I certainly couldn't see the gal that was sitting next to Julie. And Julie strikes up a conversation, as she often does with strangers, with this gal sitting next to us. And I thought it was, her voice sounded exactly like, she's a Marvel superhero. I thought that's who it was.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember her name now either. But yes.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson?
Scarlett Johansson. Yeah. So I thought it was Scarlett Johansson.
Russell Brand just with a D on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought it was Scarlett Johansson.
She totally sounded like Scarlett.
So we started talking to her, and she was really, really super sweet girl. Just really super nice girl. She was, just started telling about her travels and we didn't know her from Adam. Julie got her name, and we saved her name. And just as a side story, Julie Googled her, and she found out that the gal's I'd say a B B-list actress. She's in different things on HBO.
She'd been in Shameless a few episodes.
Right, but here's the reason that she was really interesting. Her dad is a billionaire, and again, we didn't know any of this. This is just the people you stumble across. Her dad's a billionaire who owns pretty much all the hotels, all the most expensive hotels in England. And the really interesting part was she was best friends with the two sons of Princess Diana, Harry and Bob. I don't know what the hell are their names. I'm not into pop culture. Sorry,
the other one.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to know pop culture. But there's tons of footage online of basically her hanging out with these two guys ever since they were little boys, and supposedly she's like part of their inner circle in this whole thing. Well, it doesn't matter.
You never would have known on that night that she was connected to anybody for any
totally
reason.
Unpretentious, totally. Really nice girl.
Yeah, you'd never suspect anything.
Her personality and her conversation with us was more enchanting than probably even looking at the stars that night.
Yeah, she's a great gal.
So we're standing around the telescope, and we're all three of us are sharing the eyepiece as the astronomers putting us on different planets, and she's having a great old time, and we're just having a lot of fun together. And then way in the like maybe 15, 20 feet back, we hear this voice, blah, 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 whatever the hell are you saying? And then all of us spin around, and it's Russell Brand. And he looked, creepier than normal. I don't know how to express it. Maybe, do you guys remember when he was wearing that white jacket that was like his thing? And he was wearing this white jacket that looked like it was 5 sizes too small. And so that he was standing back there with all of his, black Jesus hair and all the whole thing, wearing this tiny little white jacket, summoning. Thank you, summoning her. Yeah. So she comes over and she, hangs on him a little bit and kisses him, and then she's like, "Come on over, look at the telescope, And he didn't want to do it. And she finally talks him into coming look. And so we're sharing a telescope with Russell Brand. He doesn't give us. He just how's it going? It just says a little polite whatnots. And then Julie and I continue to talk with her because we had a nice conversation going. She was planning on moving back to England. She had no British accent. You remember that? Right. She may have been hiding it, by the way. Mm-hmm. But she had no British accent. And we were surprised that she was moving to England. So Julie and I didn't know anything about her, right? We didn't know that she grew up in England. We didn't know any of the things we just told you until later. And so when she said she was moving to England, Julie and I had been to England, and we figured, well, let's give her some advice on England. Again, we didn't know, and I'm sure in retrospect she must have been thinking we were fools, but who cares? It doesn't matter. And so then they go into this restaurant, and then, they sit in such a position that you have to walk past them to get out the front door. And when I walked in, Russell Brand was giving me this longest, I want to gut you like a fish stare that
very
I think
creepy.
It was totally creepy. He was the weirdest dude ever.
Yeah.
And he just sat there in the restaurant, this long, rectangle type thing, and he and she were sitting in the middle. And so we had to walk past them, and the whole time we were walking past this restaurant, he just kept on staring at us,
stink eye.
Expressionless. It's like, what is your problem, bro? And in retrospect, I realized probably what was going on. He was under such pressure because it seemed like the world, at least his world, was on the West Coast, was so into the divorce that he had with his wife for having cheated on his wife or whatever. And it was all over all the crap news, and just everyone was talking about it. He must have felt like everyone was against him.
Yeah.
So he must have been, because I've seen he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was completely chill. So he must have been going through a lot of personal stress and horribleness. And so Russell, if you're
he actually is pretty smart. He can
he's definitely
string
smart.
A sentence together.
Yeah.
Good writer, and just what an interesting life he must have.
But it was an interesting experience nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, so what's the point of
is there a point?
Experience? I think that on the normal podcast we talk a lot about getting out of your own way and out of your comfort zone and being flexible and trying different stuff. And I think when we first went to Post Ranch, I think even to this day it might be the most expensive night we've ever booked.
No, the place when we went to Milan and we didn't know it was Fashion Week, and we were walking around all those avatars.
Milan and Fashion Week was probably more.
But
I
that was way more.
I didn't have the courage to do the conversion to figure out
it
how
was
much
in
it
euros,
was.
And we didn't look.
But anyway, I was kind of skeptical because who spends that much on a hotel? But it absolutely is worth it, and I can't wait to go back again. The unintended meetings and who you run into. The car shows that we like to go to are like that too, the auctions, and just to sort of get out of your own 3-foot world for a little bit and just kind of dip your foot into other people's is sort of interesting.
Well, again, these are the experiences, and I suppose this might be, I don't know, us telling these stories. I'm sure that some people are listening through filters that are making them think that we're somehow being braggadocious or something like that. No, these experiences were expensive for us, and still to do them now, we would just sort of laugh at the idea of spending that much money, as Julie just did.
Yeah.
But here's what we learned: is when you have the ability, even if it means that you have to save, to spend up to really truly have unique experiences, it's always worth it.
Yeah.
We could tell you a James Bond story right now, and it'll be up to Julie because it's mostly her story.
Let's save that one up.
All right,
It's so long.
Yeah, that's a long story. But, I mean, we could tell them the...
We'll do it next week.
Okay, we have a lot of stories. Well, so the moral of the story, again, is, you know what? You only live once and you're dead a real long time. If you're going to travel to Europe, you might as well fly business class or first class. You might as well, if depending what coast you're in, fly through the airport with the nicest lounge. You're going to trip over famous people, and you never know when you're going to strike up a conversation with them. And if not, you're going to have conversations with other people who are having similar experiences. Yeah. And maybe they're just like you. Maybe they saved up for it. Maybe they're trying to have a really unique life experience. Or maybe it's just a normal thing. Either way, you're going to be interacting with people that aren't like the normal people you interact with, right? And maybe that you can attach yourself, as Julie and I are. We remember those experiences, and they're encouraging for us. They're motivational for us. Those are experiences that we wanted to have, that we pined away to have, and then we have them, and now we're still celebrating all those years later. And had we not given ourselves permission to think big and to have, to allow ourselves, frankly, I don't even know what's the ability, give ourselves permission to make ourselves uncomfortable thinking big thoughts, and then having actually experienced them, what comes out on the other side of that is, crap, look what I just did. Look at the experience I just had. Now what else can I do with my life? And these types of experiences are, they're attainable. Well, I mean, we're living right now, just to put it in perspective, we're literally living in Puerto Rico on the beach, and we live at the Ritz-Carlton, and there's famous people that come here all the flippin' time. Not during the coronavirus, but Adam Sandler comes down here during the season.
I could have sworn that I saw Renee Zellweger last night. I didn't tell you this when we were on the beach at the beach restaurant. Pretty sure.
Yeah,
Pretty sure
probably. But, I mean, Brooke Shields was down here. Who's that? We went to that dinner, late last year.
I can't remember his name now. It'll hit me in a second.
He was on Law and Order.
Actor.
He was a detective. He was called the most... How can you not... He was the most handsome man alive, whatever his name was.
I don't track all of
Yeah, we met him.
Figure it out.
He actually came to our table when we were having dinner because he knew people there and said hello. I mean, it's crazy.
And the actress was there, too. Remember she...
Yeah, she was also
in
she was playing guitar. And anyway, so just when you're listening to us listeners, I want you to remember something. Julie and I met in high school in Worthington, Ohio. Okay, Julie's parents were teachers. Julie's parents were, middle class. My parents were business owners and usually, scraping to be middle class. She grew up on one side of Worthington. I grew up on the other side of Worthington. We met when we were in high school, and we had no inherent advantages over anybody else. Educationally, certainly didn't come from family money. We had no family connections. We had nothing. But what we did have is the blessings of giving ourselves permission to think big, and then we sought out other people that would help to instill I think really to reinforce the dream of thinking big. And we had a car cleaning and detailing business. We told you guys about that before. We had some incredible, very, very wealthy customers that were detailing customers, and they, I guess, saw the spark in us, and some of them invested in us, educationally, just saying things and being good examples for us mostly. And it carried forward from there. But what ultimately we learned from having our life experience up to this point, where I think we could argue we're midlife, wouldn't you say that we're midlife? Yeah. Is that you can really do anything you want to in this world. You can really accomplish anything you want to accomplish in this world, no matter where you came from, no matter what your race is, no matter what education you had or didn't have, no matter anything like that. It does not matter. What you just have to do is give yourself permission to think big. Think bigger than you are. Just really allow, and then the greatest gift we gave ourselves, I think, when Julie and I, for the past, we've been married for almost 30 years, is putting ourselves in positions to have the experiences that reinforce the dreams. And so when it's one thing to read a magazine or watch a movie or something and say, wouldn't that be nice? It's another thing to fly there, drive there, go there, and breathe the air. To taste the taste, to smell the smells, to actually experience what it's like. I remember when we first got married, we couldn't afford air travel. And so when we'd want to get out of Ohio because the winter was so bad, we'd literally drive down to Florida, long-ass drive. You can do it in 24 hours.
Well,
you don't stop.
Even in the summer, we went way out west several times, several years.
We used to have when we got married, we had this little Miata. It was a 1990, blue Miata, Mariner blue Miata. And we used to drive that damn thing everywhere. Yeah, great little car. And another place, Julie just said we drove out to Seattle, but when we drove down to Florida, we would go to the places that you hear about. We went to Palm Beach, we went down to Miami, we went down to Key West, we went down to all these places that were places that we dreamed of when we were kids that we could drive to. And we realized when you're standing there, and when you're standing at the top of the Eiffel Tower, or you're standing in places that were only in books when you were growing up, and you're realizing you did it, then you think to yourself, what did it actually take to get to the Eiffel Tower, right? What did it actually take to have this experience where you're buying a new Lamborghini, or you're buying not one but several new Ferraris? What did it actually take for you to get to the point where you pay off your student loans, or you sell 100 houses your first year in the business? And then you think back, it was a lot of work, but it wasn't as much work as what my ego told me it would take to accomplish that goal.
It wasn't actually as much as you thought it would be. And I think that that's what stymies a lot of people. We see that when we do goal setting with agents, because they always just throw some crazy number out there. What would it take to move the needle in your life? Okay, maybe in the 5 areas of life where you've got personal, or your physical, financial, educational, spiritual. What would it take to move the needle? And people always think it'd be like, well, I'd have to earn $1 million. No, you don't. You don't have to earn $1 million. You probably have to do 1 or 2 more deals a month than you're used to. Probably that's what it would take for you to pay cash for things instead of charging them, for you to really make a dent in whatever you owe if you're not already debt-free, for you to fly first class instead of steerage class.
Well, that's slightly disingenuous, though, truthfully. Because I'll tell you what the biggest breakaway in you and I with accumulation of wealth.
Saving incrementally would be
Saving incrementally was the first thing. Going to the point where you have we started at less than zero. Julie and I got married when we were 20 and 21, and we had $50,000 or $60,000 in student loan debt, which we paid off our first year in real estate. By the way,
we had some credit card debt.
Yeah,
and we weren't debt free. That's for sure.
So the point of it is that what we learned was, first of all, we had to live below our means. But selling 100 houses our first year in the business gave us the money to pay off those debts. And what we learned after that is the first thing, and we talk about this. We did a series of podcasts on this. We talked about this last week, too. We have to find those podcasts and replay them as replays, because that was really good, I thought. Some of our best. Anyway, what are they called? Do you remember?
You have a moral obligation to be rich.
Yeah, you have a moral obligation.
Maybe we'll do that over the 4th of July weekend or something.
That's a good idea. You have a moral obligation to be rich. You guys should go to timandjulieharris.com or iTunes or Stitcher. But we did, I think, 4 or 5 topics on that, where we'd really broken it down how essentially we studied, we don't talk at all about what we did, but we studied what other people did, and we made it very practical and tactical to accumulate wealth. It's really not that big. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. So without breaking down the little steps and making this into a typical, podcast or coaching call, all I'm trying to tell you guys is you can do it too. All you got to do is replicate what other people did.
Yes.
But Julie was talking about essentially living off transactions. The fact is having a transactional-based lifestyle sucks.
Right, but all I was saying is you have to first figure out how to have regular income
for sure,
for you to unlock the rest of it.
Right. So having transactional based income is never going to allow you to accumulate unless you obviously have a crap ton of transactions coming from a bunch of different sources. But at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to get to the point where your income sources are passive, and to which obviously, right, I didn't say anything that no one's going to disagree with, right? Wouldn't I love passive income? But the reality of it is that people don't get there because they don't know how to do passive income. So I'll give you some for examples. I'll give you the hardest passive income source that you could possibly have, and I'm not going to include investing in businesses, but it's definitely rental properties. Julie and I have dozens of rental properties, and let me tell you, if I knew if I knew then what I know now, I don't think Julie and I would have invested so heavily in rental properties. We can talk forever about that. But the reason is simply is that, yes, it's a source of income, but it's definitely not passive. Even if you have property managers, it's definitely not passive. And in most cases, if you are really truly looking at the net income you're going to get from even a paid off rental property in Columbus, Ohio, where we have a bunch of them, that's worth say $200,000, you're going to make maybe $1,000. That's about right, right?
Yeah.
You're going to make maybe $1,000 a month off of it. So for you to make $1,000 off of a rental property, you have to have $200,000. You have to have that damn thing paid off. And then you take into consideration the property taxes, the maintenance and the upkeep, and the, if you have a property manager and all that stuff. And I got news for you guys. In America, you think property taxes are going up or you're going down. If you think, like in these states that have crazy property taxes, do you really think that, with all these states and municipalities running dry of money because they're fearful about, basically they lost all the sales tax income and all these other, taxing sources, because that's where the government makes its money, is by taxing you. Do you really, in licensing fees and all that stuff, do you really think the government's going to what are they going to do now that your local state, you guys know where property taxes goes? In a lot of states, the property taxes backstops the public workers union pensions. And so not in Ohio, but in some states, the money that's paid to property tax, some of that goes to making it so that the local teachers' pensions funds never run dry. So what I'm trying to tell you is property taxes are going up. So the whole idea that rental properties are the home run that they were, say, in the 70s and the 80s and maybe the 90s, I'm not sold on that idea anymore. So there's you can make rental property, it can be a great source of passive income. And then you go up from there. So your business is not passive income because you have to do it. So where else do you get passive income? You can get passive income from buying dividend-paying stocks. There are certain stocks, and you guys can research this yourself, or if you're interested in enough, tell me about it, and we'll do a podcast on it. But there are some stocks that have been paying dividends for 30, 40, 50 years. And a dividend literally is you buy a share of this company for $100 or $50 or whatever it is. They will pay you on average maybe 3% or 6%, and some of them pay 10% per month. So some of them pay quarterly, some of them pay monthly. So you can, the same amount of money that Julie and I put into real estate, had we put that into dividend-paying stocks, I haven't done this analysis, and I probably won't because it'll be too depressing. But I could pretty much guarantee you that we would be making more net income per month off those dividend-paying stocks, not to mention the appreciation of those stocks when we go off the rental properties.
I think there's probably no way that that's not true, simply because of the care and feeding of rental properties,
right?
The time and the time management, but also, you do have capital expenditure with each property. There's been a few years where a few properties haven't needed anything. But by and large, I'm doing 2 basement bids right now.
Yep.
They need stuff. Stocks don't need, their American Home Shield warranties on them, for example.
And look at Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, right? His biggest holding is Coca-Cola. Why? Because Coca-Cola is a loved brand and a loved product with no real competitor all over the world. It's a global product. And they've paid dividends. They've paid their shareholders a dividend, I believe, every month for something like 50 flipping years.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you're buying into a Coca-Cola, you put money towards Coca-Cola, they're going to pay you a percent of their profit every single month, and that stock is also going to go up in value. So there's that. Now, so that's something that if you wanted to create passive income, that's something you could do. Beyond that, you do have to have, as far as creating passive sources of income, you could do things that are essentially tied to affiliate income, and you could do things like that. You could have an investment in a business, but again, then it gets a little sketchy because the investment in the business, you have to be invited to be an investor in the business.
And that business itself has to continue to thrive.
To be viable, right.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that's fascinating. Julie just said it. Like when I looked at a list of the best dividend-paying stocks, I did this for one of our coaching clients the other day because they're looking to diversify out of real estate. And it was funny, the ones that were listed on, lots of them are REITs. Lots of them own commercial real estate. And then I looked to see what the holdings are of the commercial real estate. And a lot of them are holding real estate that is leased by the Gap and things like that. Well, I happen to know the Gap hasn't paid its leases for like 2 months to one of the largest, malls in the country. And they're going to litigation. So why am I telling you that? Because you really got to drill down and know what you're doing. No risk-free investing exists anywhere, and we're certainly not experts at it. All I'm trying to tell you is where you want to get to as fast as possible is you want to get to the point where you have passive income. But in all the years that I've been alive, I've never seen anything that has the potential to create as much passive income for especially real estate people as EXP Realty.
Absolutely.
I haven't. I've never seen anything like it. And it's interesting. Brad Inman did his online because of COVID, whatever he calls it, the summit or whatever it was last week. It looked like it was pretty cool. It looked like he did a great job. Mm-hmm. And it, like when all these technologists were talking about sort of the greatest thing ever, and when the conversation was about brokerages, they all were saying basically EXP Realty is going to be the thing that's going to really kick some serious ass going forward. There really is no comparison to what EXP Realty has and what they're creating in the marketplace. They are the biggest disruptor to happen in certainly from the brokerage side of things ever. There are no comparisons.
No, I mean, I often think about how our business trajectory, our real estate practice would have been different had we had something like EXP back then.
Can you imagine?
We literally would have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We would have saved millions, probably. Truthfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you got, the way...
And without having any fewer services, you actually get more for a lesser amount of expenditure.
Well, I was just, exploring this, and if you look at what EXP is offering as far as, for example, their technology, right? Mm-hmm. So an individual practitioner, or even a small, medium-sized brokerage or a team, all the crap you have to pay for, it's no wonder most teams and brokers don't make any money. I mean, in between your CRM and your lead generator and your platform for this and your website for that.
It's all pieced together, too.
Right, it's all pieced together. And then there's the CRM that strings it all together that charges you $800 a month, and there's all this... all these spinning plates basically that all require that you feed them judiciously with money. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is that your brokerage, you're not, well, I have to have that. And then you're saying, well, okay, I got these, I want to build a brokerage, I want to build a team, so I have to attract agents, and those agents all demand that they have leads, and then you're buying leads and you're spending all this money. And this is just how the marketplace has evolved. You can't be a team or a broker nowadays and say, I'm not going to provide you technology solutions. You won't have anyone wanting to join you. Even if you're a flat fee broker, you're still going to have to basically spend money to get agents to want to join you, because they know that if you're not spending the money for them, they're going to have to spend the money for themselves. Mm-hmm. And they would rather have you have that recurring expense and not them. Real agents are not dumb.
Nope.
So what EXP Realty has done, really, from a brokerage agent perspective, is transformative. Mm-hmm. It truly is, especially at a time where the market is shifting so quickly, and it's going to. And I know right now we're experiencing, I don't want to make this sound like a real estate podcast too much today, but we are definitely experiencing a mini boom, and it's not going to last. If you don't believe us, just look for all the other reports that are going to start coming out. What was it? CoreLogic said they're expecting that there's going to be nationwide depreciation for the first time, or for the third time in the history of the country, Great Depression, Great Recession, and whatever's coming next year. Mm-hmm. So there are all kinds of seismic changes that are going to happen to home values. Don't worry too much about it. We're going to keep you guys way ahead of the curve. You're going to be able to adapt and change, and you're going to be just fine. So again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole with all of you, but what I'm suggesting all of you do is urgently, like when Julie and I are talking about wealth accumulation, the first thing you have to do is you have to get a hold of your expenses and your overspending. Because if you don't, then you're going to be wasting money on a CRM that you could get for free if you were at EXP. You're going to be wasting money buying leads that you could get for free if you were at EXP. You're going to be doing all these things that with your money that you otherwise could have been using to invest or pay off debt. And so this is the reason that you have to take a serious look at EXP. But one of the things that I've seen, and it's almost like, you say this. You say it's a gift from the real estate gods, Julie. Yeah. But the revenue share opportunity that you guys have at EXP is extraordinary. And you have the ability to create the very definition of passive income at EXP that mere mortals like all of us have never been able to experience. Look, if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, if you are born with connections, you're going to have an opportunity to put money into something that will maybe create passive income for you, a business startup, a pre-IPO, all these different types of things. So you're going to have opportunities and angles that mere mortals won't have. I mean, some of those opportunities come our way now at this point, but they certainly didn't when we were younger. But we knew kids that were raised with silver spoons in their mouths, that had an unfair advantage, that would oftentimes gloat about it. And I can see why, because they really did not have to work as hard as we did. They certainly did not have. Yeah, they didn't. And EXP Realty is for every single one of you listening, real estate professional, brokers, agents, whatever, big brokerages, small brokerages, you have to take a serious look at this. The revenue share model that Glenn Sanford thought up, over 10 years ago, we'll make it so that every single one of you listening have the opportunity to create true passive income in the purest sense. And I was watching a video of Glenn talking about this. I'm not sure how long ago it was. And this is one of the reasons that Julie and I decided to align with EXP. I was watching this video and he was talking about, he's got a little slumped in his chair and he started to look down. And he started talking about how he started EXP Realty because he, back as a result of the Great Recession, was on his heels financially. And he said he saw a lot of his friends going through the same things. So he started EXP Realty at the very moment that he saw essentially the industry and especially the agents failing and suffering needlessly. And he had the thought, right, the epiphany, what if I can create a brokerage where I can actually make it? So not only can agents have a superior experience on the brokerage side, but also build passive income for themselves. How would I do it? How would I create it? And that's the kind of thing that's exciting about times like this, because it's the creation of, Julie, what was that seed that only basically germinates when it's under tremendous pressure and heat?
Pine.
Tell them that story.
Well, and I think there's a whole class of different trees and shrubs and things, but the most notable one is the lodgepole pine. That's what they used to make telephone poles out of because it was so tall and straight. But those only actually germinate after not just a little fire, but like a super hot forest fire, because the seed is encased in resin, and the resin won't allow the seed to germinate unless it's been melted off. So that's the catalyst, right? You only get those trees after a radical event or series of events, in its case, fire. These times are just like that. What's going to come out of it? What's the phoenix from the flames that we can see? It's already happening with EXP. It was born from basically recession times and has always been a technology company. That's different than all the companies that are struggling to figure out, God, I guess I have to figure out Zoom now. I mean, EXP was born online.
It is. And once you have the experience of basically going through the virtual campus and Verbella and all these things.
That's real, by the way.
Oh, I know. we let our 6-year-old play on EXP World, and in EXP World, you walk around as an avatar. I know you have to see it to understand. It's an avatar, but in a professional work environment. So the avatar was her mama Julie, and so Zoe was walking around. And when you get in the EXP virtual world, when you can walk and talk to different, like you can go to talk to the people in accounting, you can go and talk to your broker, you can go to talk to the marketing department. You can just go and make your avatar walk through this actually lovely virtual campus. But if there's somebody else that's walking there, and when you get closer to them, it shows what their name is, and you can actually have a conversation with that person. So you could be literally walking, down a virtual hallway at EXP, and you could walk past, Glenn Sanford, the CEO of the company, and you could stop and say, "Hey, Glenn," and you're talking, your avatar is talking to his avatar, but you're really talking to him wherever he is, right? Or if you're maybe searching you want to send a referral. You go to the Hawaii, let's say you're sending a referral from California to Hawaii. You can go to the Hawaii State Room in EXP. You can walk in there and you can say, you could just, go up to different people and you could say, hey, this is, Bob, I'm from Laguna Beach and I've got a referral and you can start making contacts that way. Or maybe you go there looking for referrals from Hawaii to California. There's so many, there's an actual, I could just geek out about it forever.
But it is more efficient than all right, I got to figure out, I'm going to go Google and see where's the brokerage in Hawaii, and then I've got to go look up, do they have any kind of listings?
Well, it's worse than that, right?
It's just so much more efficient to just show up, walk into the room, get what you want.
Well, but what do most brokerages do nowadays? They don't want you doing agent-to-agent referrals.
Right.
They want you going through their relocation department or whatever, so then they can get a piece, and the agent receiving the referral on the other end is working for like 25 or 30%.
Yeah.
If they're lucky.
Right.
After the broker split, after the referral fee.
And they may or may not have been the agent that you would have preferred to send your client to anyway.
Exactly. So at EXP, they don't get in the middle of the transaction. But again, I'm going to go back to the recurring revenue that you could get from revenue share. Mm-hmm. It literally is money that's wired to you every month from the agents that you sponsored at EXP. Some people get into EXP and they see what a huge opportunity sponsoring agents is. Others just don't want anything to do with it. They don't want to do it. They're not interested in it. And here's what's always funny to me. So the agents that we've sponsored at EXP, there's been more than a couple that have said, listen, Tim, I love EXP. I love the technology. I love the commission split. I love everything. But if you ever ask me to recruit an agent, I'm going to, virtually punch you in the face. I said, fine. And so they joined EXP. And here's what's always, I've had this happen, I don't know, more than 10 times. So they join EXP, not going to be recruiting, not sponsoring agents. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I just want to, whatever. Then all of a sudden, they announce they're at EXP. They get a call from agents, local agents. They get a call from someone who they know that's in a different state that sells real estate. They talk about it on Facebook, or maybe they don't talk about it on Facebook. They just change their e-card, and people notice it's a different brokerage, so agents ask. And then agents ask about EXP, and then the person who was so resolute and never wanting to sponsor agents is back on the phone with me or texting me saying, Tim, I've got somebody who wants to join EXP. I've known this person for a while. What do I say? What do I do? And of course, I help them get that agent sponsored. So then all of a sudden, this person that goes from, I'm not going to sponsor anybody, now all of a sudden has found the passive income revenue share religion,
right?
Right? And then they figured it out, because then they start realizing that they could actually create, I mean, this is the painful thing to say. Mm-hmm. We're making more money from our revenue share net income than we do from having, it is emotional for me to say this. And I've said this before, and it's not any less emotional every time I say this out loud. But if I think about what you and I have sacrificed, truthfully.
Yeah.
We've always lived under our means. Obviously, we splurge on travel, if you haven't figured that out yet. Obviously, we live under our means. Well, we have for a long time, until we didn't have to anymore. But we sacrificed. We worked harder than we had to. In retrospect, if we had revenue share.
Time.
Oh my gosh. And we worked on the nights. We worked weekends. We worked holidays. This is when we sold real estate in our coaching business. We worked 10 times as hard as we did when we sold real estate.
Yep.
Doing what we did in the coaching industry, trust me, all the stuff we've had to do to get where we are, it is so much work than being a successful agent. We sold over 100 houses our first year, right?
All the years after it.
Right, to build 100 to 200 all the years after for almost 10 years. But to build what we've built in the coaching business, if someone had come to me and said, Tim, this is what you're going to have to do to accomplish what by the time you're 50, what you've accomplished, I don't think I would do it. I was going to say, no sale. I'm not willing to sacrifice that much of my life for a coaching business. No sale. I'm going to figure out a different way to do it. It's ridiculous. And doing it nowadays would be 1,000 times harder.
That's true.
So rental properties. What Julie and I did is and this is when we didn't do this every year, but this is what we tried to do. We would always have ourselves in contract on a rental property, because we wanted to keep ourselves under pressure to not overspend personally, but also to have to save up the down payment to buy the property. Mm-hmm. So we didn't very frequently buy our own listings, but we would go and find houses for sale that we wanted to buy. We do extendo closings on them, and we tried to do a closing every 4 to 6 months. And in that 4 to 6 months, we'd go from one closing to the next. Sometimes we'd buy these houses at a discount, so obviously that helped for the sake of qualifying for mortgages. For years, we took out loans on all of these. Eventually, we paid all but 3 of them off. And then after a while, we started saving up the cash to buy them. So during the Great Recession, we started buying a lot of houses, and it got to the point where we would save up $150,000, $175,000, $200,000. Now, I want you to think about that. To save up $200,000 after taxes, you'd have to earn probably in our tax bracket, I don't know, $260 probably, something like that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? It means that we weren't doing a lot of fun crap that other people were doing.
Yeah.
We weren't spending money and doing that. We were living under our means, and we did that for decades to get to the point where we could stay on that hamster wheel, where we could save up the money, where we could pay off the rental properties, where we could because we wanted to get to the point where we could live off the passive income from our rental properties. That was our financial North Star. And by the time we were in our very early 40s, we'd accomplished the goal. We were exactly where we'd hoped to be, and we'd done everything we set out to do. And here's what we discovered. We actually needed to overcorrect because of the vacancies, because of the expenses. You might have all your dozens of rental properties rented out, and you might be making $1,000 net on them every month, and you might think that basically you can live off that passive income, but 3 of them need roofs. 2 of them basically have leaky basements. A tree just fell in the garage of one of them, right?
Yeah, and meanwhile the property tax went up.
Yeah, meanwhile some moron in some state thought it'd be a great idea to make it so that if you're not a resident of the state and you have property taxes, now you have to pay a surcharge on, insanity.
Yep.
And so every single theory we had about rental properties started to just evaporate. And so when people ask me about investing in real estate, I think, well, it's a great idea to accumulate, to build wealth, but it's not the best idea. And if you have a real estate license and EXPs in United States, Canada, Australia, aggressively moving towards
Mexico.
New Zealand. I hear talks about Central America, Mexico. Julie and I have high hopes so that they come to our new home state of Puerto Rico. Well, not a state, but you get the idea. So they're expanding all over the world. EXP is going to be, without a doubt, the largest real estate brokerage in the history of real estate brokerages. I cannot literally even think of a reason why that won't be true. There's no competitor that's anywhere near, and EXP has tremendous momentum.
Well, and now it's got a huge motivator, which is everybody going digital, online, cutting expenses, getting smarter about their business. That's not going to go away. And especially when people have discovered, you know what? I don't really need to go to my real estate office.
Right.
It's okay. You know, I've been doing business for 90 days now based on my laptop and my phone. I'm good.
And consumers, they're not going to want to go to offices. They didn't want to go before.
No,
I mean, when you and I sold real estate in the 90s to the very early 2000s, I can maybe buyers would show up at your office, but they didn't want to.
No.
They'd much rather show up at, the word Starbucks then.
They want to go see houses.
There were no Starbucks then. Do you know that?
I know.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
There were barely cell phones.
Right, you're getting that ink on that couch that you left on your hand, lady.
Flip phones, I think.
Yeah,
and
flip
thermal
phones.
fax paper.
Right, exactly. So, moral of the story is that
you don't need that stuff anymore, though.
If you're in real estate, you need to seriously consider contacting us so we can get you started with eXp Realty. Just explore it. We have a window in the economy. What is this? Basically, between June and I think realistically maybe October. We're going to have what feels like a decent real estate market, but after that, all indicators are, unless there's some serious changes in the economy, which cannot happen, just can't, you're going to have a definite slowdown in the economy on a whole, and not just the United States, but the whole world. So we're going to go through who knows what, right? My crystal ball, it gets a little murky more than maybe 6 months out. It's too difficult to know for sure. There's too many variables. I mean, my God, we started out today's podcast telling you guys about freaking alien radio signals. I mean, who the hell knows what's coming next?
Who knows?
You guys don't misinterpret. Julie and I's laughing. We're laughing because what else can you do, right? I mean, the changes that all of us are experiencing, it's just strange. And we're all going to be sitting around in our rocking chairs in the old folks' homes 1,000 years from now, and we're going to be going back. You know what? You may have that funny story, but let me tell you about the first 6 months of 2020.
Right? It's going to be top that story.
You top that story. I got everything. I got locusts. I got aliens. I got pandemic. I got riots. I
have wondered the stories. I mean, Zoe's old enough.
She'll remember all of it. We
were talking, some of my mom friends were talking about, are they going to be known as like the COVID generation? Are they going to be pandemic kids? But, I think about...
Or alien kids.
Maybe they already are. I
don't
know.
Locust kids.
Well, but I think about the massive impact that the Depression had on our grandparents, because... now they were a little bit older than Zoe, but they absolutely had vivid memories of that.
Bring it more current. We always talk about...
Or even the recession trauma.
How about this? How about September 11th?
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, I vividly remember that, as do you.
Yeah.
I remember no planes in the sky and no cars on the road. And, I remember our neighbor when we lived in New Albany then, the Bergesons. Remember he said that he worked for AEP and he was in flight. And they said, okay, there's something going on. We're having an emergency landing. And he said that plane landed like from 30,000 feet. He went down to landing in 5 minutes.
So the moral of the story is there are going to be untold, lifelong, emotional changes. That's not just going to be people telling stories like we are now. It's going to change society.
Behavior.
It's going to change everything. And the problem, and I think through this from a personal perspective, because we're human, we're selfish first, right? All of us are. So I think, where is it that Julie and I are essentially being obsoleted? Where is it that we're not really staying current? Where is it that we're being complacent? And, that's something we talk about quite frequently. That's something that we're always thinking about for the sake of our business, because we want to, continue to be what we are. We don't want to lose what we have, and we want to gain what we've had, just like all of you listening. So when I think from a brokerage's agent perspective, if you are not with EXP, or if you're not on the path to join EXP, do this. You can text the word EXP to 31996, or just text me directly at 512-758-0206, and just say EXP. You want to talk about EXP, and you and I will have a one-on-one call. But the first thing you should really do is text the word EXP to 31996. If you want to go on the fast track, just text me directly at 512-758-0206. So you choose. If you want to, get on the phone with me and have a one-on-one conversation about EXP, if you're, 75, 80% sure you're ready to join, and obviously, if you're not talking with anyone else from EXP already, you just want to essentially have all your final questions answered and move forward, let's have a conversation. I give priority to those calls, 512-758-0206. For the rest of you who are just getting ready to get started thinking about it, go ahead and just text the word EXP to 31996. This is an absolute must-do for every single one of you. If you even think there's a chance that going into next year, economic times are going to be significantly harder, brokerages, I want you to really make sure that you're not making the mistake that, frankly, Julie and I did, that you're not believing that somehow this is going to be a disgraceful exit out of you owning your own brokerage. It's not. It's a graceful exit for you to go to the next evolution of your brokerage. And that goes for teams as well. One of the nice things about EXP, I talk with brokerages every week. I don't even know how many I talked to last week. Brokerages are going to be the next big surge of people joining EXP. Mm-hmm. I understood that there were almost 200 brokerages that converted to EXP last year. But you keep your brand. When you're at EXP, if you're a team, if you're an individual agent especially, or if you're a broker, they don't want you to become, it's not a franchise, they don't want you to become EXP. They want you to become, Tim and Julie Harris's real estate team, brokered by EXP. They want you to become Harris Real Estate, brokered by EXP.
That's one of the coolest things that they do is they don't force you to lose your own identity.
Right.
I think that's huge. And in fact, the more there's always new stuff that they're innovating. And the more that I learn about new programs and things that agents can get, the more I think it's actually irresponsible not to know more about EXP and seriously consider it. Because one of our friends said, if you've got an agent and their spouse isn't in real estate and their spouse knew about EXP, boy, wouldn't that be a discussion if you weren't actually pursuing it?
Yep.
Just things like, just take Matterport. Everybody's having to go to Matterport for all of their stuff, and then you get a better, program from that. Little things that add up. But I do think it's almost malpractice to be making dumb financial decisions when you know about such a great solution.
So just explore it. I know some of you guys are busy doing transactions. Hopefully all of you are busy feeling like the market's returned. But trust your coach, or maybe we're your future coaches, that there's going to be a rounding of the bend in the economy that's going to happen towards the end of this year. So please, 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 I beg all of you, do not sign yourselves up for unnecessary financial suffering. At least look at EXP. Get your mind wrapped around what it is. Because here's a little a truism. Jay Kinder, my friend, said this, and it's so true. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you get it, once you understand the genius of what EXP is from an agent's perspective, you can't unsee it. And I tried to unsee it before we got involved,
It's true.
I did, and I couldn't. I couldn't get it out of my head. It became an obsessive thought until I really decided, Julie and I decided to move forward with it because it just makes total sense. It makes me excited for all of you to discover what we discovered, and what essentially will be, for all of you who choose for it to be, a true source of financial freedom. We call it Libertas. Libertas means freedom. So if you're ready to have a serious conversation about EXP, I want you to text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. In the meantime, Julie, anything you'd like to say to these guys as we round the bend?
Yeah, well, I hope that, our telling of various stories and bringing you bizarro news occasionally causes you to think bigger and differently and gets you perhaps away from watching, whatever your news channel is and stepping away from the drama. Even if you just allow yourself that one day a week like we do on Sundays, I think you're going to have a better mental outlook and you're going to clear out a lot of the horrible cobwebs that can be building up through just the weirdness of the year. It's your job to put on your own oxygen mask first, to take care of yourself, your family, then your clients and customers, and go out from there. And if you're not doing that, you've got to start with yourself. So take a breath. I think it really helps to just get out of that zone a little bit. So that's what we try to do on our Sunday show, and hopefully we can be entertaining in the process.
So happy birthday to my mom.
Yes, happy
she turns
birthday,
80.
Rosemary.
We're going to take Rosemary down to the beach. Julie and Zoe made her a very nice, her favorite chocolate cake.
Chocolate with chocolate icing.
Oh, we're going to try to take that down? We should.
I don't know. I'm afraid it'll melt, but maybe.
Yeah, it probably will melt. Well,
it'll be good.
We're going to take her down. Might give her a glass of Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Get her a little boozed up.
I know. You know what? What a great thing to become 80, though.
How about become 80 living here?
I know. I was talking to her about that. I said, I bet Rosemary this is one of those past Rosemary. Did past Rosemary of even 70 think that she'd be, living out her golden years, helping to raise her granddaughter on a Caribbean island?
Yeah, I know. It's
probably
amazing.
Not. But good for her for being flexible and versatile and, becoming...
I do get, truthfully, I have learned a lot from my mom from being flexible and versatile because, how many people her age, she's had to be, but how many people her age would have not even considered doing what she's done?
I know.
It's amazing. And she doesn't even think about it. She's like, she got her passport. She wants to go to Italy. She wants to go to France. She wants to travel. She wants to do, she hears us, Julie and I, reminiscing about these adventures we've had. She wants to have them too. She didn't have them. She was,
Vatican.
She wants to go to the Vatican, right? We went to the Vatican years ago and we brought her back some beads that were blessed by the Pope and she cherishes those, but she wants to get her own. The whole thing, it's cool. Yeah. So, yeah. So happy birthday to Rosemary.
Yes, happy birthday, Rosemary.
All right, so in the meantime, you guys have your own strange, wonderful adventures on Sunday. Allow yourselves the freedom to step away from the news, step back into, what matters most, and, embrace the wacky because it makes life more interesting. You guys have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.